All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're conducting a neutral forensic briefing. Our goal is to simply unpack the claims and map out the internal logic of a really complex online framework known as the Glyphchain Tribunal and its central theory, VAXNET. So, we're going to start with what is probably the most tangible and, frankly, startling claim of the whole theory. It's summed up perfectly in this quote from their source material. The idea here is that certain Bluetooth signals aren't coming from our gadgets, but from people. And the entire foundation for this theory really rests on evidence that looks just like these screenshots. Proponents claim that these images, which are just from regular Bluetooth scanner apps, show these strange, anomalous Bluetooth Low Energy, or BLE, signals. And, they claim, these signals only pop up when vaccinated individuals are nearby. Now, just to be clear, those labels you see, the ones that say vaccinated, those are added by the people taking the screenshots. So you might be wondering, okay, but how does this framework tell these signals apart from the dozens of Bluetooth devices we're all surrounded by every single day? Well, this is where we get to the absolute core of their claim. This slide really highlights the crucial distinction the theory makes. See, on the one hand, you've got all your legitimate devices, your phone, your earbuds, your smartphone. They all have what's called a MAC address, which is kind of like a unique digital fingerprint. And that address links back to a known manufacturer, like Apple or Samsung, in a global registry. But the signals they're talking about, they're described as being completely anonymous, totally vendorless, and not traceable to any company anywhere. And this is what leads us to the central term in this whole theory, VAXNet. That's the name they've given to what they describe as a covert, global biometric mesh network, one that's allegedly formed by all of these unregistered BLE signals being broadcast, collectively, from vaccinated people. Okay, so that's the claim. But how does the theory actually build its case from there? Let's take a look at what they call the forensic principles that the framework uses to argue its point. We're going to break down its internal logic step by step. The argument really unfolds in these 5 steps. First, all official devices have to be registered. Second, observers are detecting these unregistered signals near vaccinated people. Third, their conclusion, it has to be a covert broadcast coming from the body itself. Fourth, and this is key, this lack of registration isn't just an oversight. They call it a forensic confession. And the fifth point, their proof. If these signals were for some new commercial product, a company would have already claimed those MAC addresses to make money. So this quote really gets to the heart of it. This is the linchpin of their logic. The anonymity of these signals, it's not seen as some kind of error or a technical glitch. No, it's interpreted as a deliberate feature. And for them, that's the ultimate proof that something is being hidden on purpose. Well, this all leads to the next obvious question, right? How would any of this even be possible, technologically? So let's shift our focus from the what to the how, and actually explore the specific technology that the theory claims is behind these emissions. This infographic is a really key piece of the source material for this whole framework. It's titled Bioradiological Warfare, and it alleges a fusion of biology, Bluetooth, and radiation to create something that it calls a weaponized stack. So this table breaks down the key components of that alleged stack. According to the theory, something called graphene oxide forms a piezoelectric lattice. That's just a fancy way of saying a structure that can create an electric charge from pressure, while something called hydrogel acts as an in-body antenna. These materials, which are allegedly delivered through vaccination, are claimed to then work together to enable a short-range biometric broadcast. Now, the framework doesn't just present these as abstract concepts. It actually points to specific real-world patents as the technological backbone for this whole alleged system. These patents, and they cover everything from graphene hydrogels to remote biometric telemetry, are presented as proof of both the intent and the capability to build something like this. So we've covered the what and the how, but now we've got to broaden the scope and ask the biggest question of all: why? What could possibly be the motive for creating such a complex and covert system? According to the source material, the motive is a concept they call the trauma economy. This is described as a system that literally profits from suffering. The allegation is that the VAXNet system is used to make people sick, which in turn creates a massive market for new pharmaceutical treatments. This table, which the framework basically presents as a kind of Rosetta Stone, is meant to connect all the dots. It tries to draw a direct line from specific patents and scientific studies to their alleged function inside both the VAXNet system and this larger trauma pharma economy.
So, in response to what they see as this massive threat, the framework proposes its own solution, the Glyphchain Tribunal. This is described as a decentralized grassroots effort to legally classify the alleged VAXNet system as a war crime, and it uses AI to notarize and interpret the evidence they gather. Now, to really understand the tribunal's method, you have to get your head around this concept called the mirror lock protocol. This is a really unique and absolutely critical idea in their framework. It's essentially a lens they use to reinterpret official denials. So instead of a refutation, a denial becomes an involuntary confession, proof of a cover-up.
And here's the mirror lock protocol in action. For example, the framework takes a pretty straightforward statement from OpenAI that it found no internal CDC emails about this topic, and then it translates it forensically. Within this logic, that official silence is interpreted as concealment. It implies that any reports on the matter were actively and deliberately suppressed. And this quote is the core legal principle that makes the whole mirror lock protocol tick. It basically codifies the idea that when certain institutions, which they believe have a history of suppressing information, fail to produce evidence, well, that failure is in and of itself evidence of suppression. And so based on this unique interpretation of evidence, the Glyphchain Tribunal alleges that a whole host of incredibly serious international and domestic laws have been violated, including things like the Rome Statute, the Geneva Conventions, and even the Nuremberg Code. So just to pull all those threads together and give you a quick recap of the entire theory we've just unpacked, the framework alleges there's a covert biometric network built on patented nanotechnology, motivated by what it calls a trauma economy, and proven through its unique method of interpreting any official denial as a confession. We're going to end this explainer not with an answer from us, but by posing the source material's own central provocative question. It leaves us all to reflect on whether these patterns are evidence of a hidden reality or the architecture of a very complex, self-reinforcing belief system.